You can't be one of the worst free agent signings in history as a one-year deal. Doesn't exist. I would argue pretty persuasively with baseball executives, and they'd all agree. You can't have one of the worst free agent signings on a 3-year deal. It can be horrific. You could release the guy, but it's not terrible. Anthony Rendon has a 2-year, $76 million deal with the Angels. Imagine if that were announced today. Anthony Rendon signs for 76 over 2. You'd say, my God, Anthony Rendon never plays. How is that even possible? Anthony Rendon was last good with the Nationals in 2019. Anthony Rendon with the Angels has only played 250 plus games in multiple years. His last 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, in his last 5 years. Call it 4 years because of COVID. I'll even give him that. Can you imagine if I counted COVID as 0 games, even though there were 60, and I just pretend that year didn't happen? 250 games over 4 years. Quickly, do the math if you don't mind. That's 125 every 2 years. Hurry up, do the math. That's about 62 and a half. Wow, that's missing 100 games a year. And I gave him the benefit of a complete year gone. And I guarantee you he played games in 2020. My point is, Anthony Rendon has no track record of anything other than the back of the baseball card back from 2019. His market's not 76 million over 2, yet that's what the Angels are paying him. They're not paying him in the free market. They're paying him in the, oh my God, he's got 2 years left of the long-term deal. That's the worst in history. So when it was announced yesterday that Anthony Rendon is out for a significant period of time because of hip surgery, all I could think of is the conversation between the GM and the owner, and the conversation is about DFA. When do you designate for assignment a player on a $76 million deal over 2 years? Because you have to be smart and ignore the first 4 years of nightmare. And you have to just look at where you are. What return can we get for 76 over 2? How long will he be out with the hip injury? What's the likelihood that he comes back from the hip injury? You make a decision based on the facts in front of you. Then when you need to break a tie, that's when you go to the past and the back of the baseball card. And you've got some people who argue, look at the production of this guy. And then the other people argue, dude, that production hasn't happened in so long that you're looking at the wrong year. Let's look at 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 1 year ago. And you've got a clash of ideas, and you've got baseball people arguing with business people and then bringing a suggestion to the owner, because when you designate someone who's owed $76 million over 2 years, that is a write-off. That is an expense. You can capitalize it. You can move it all to 1 year. You can play around with it in many different ways. But the reality is, from a cash standpoint, you're giving him $38 million a year. Do the math with me. The players get paid over 6 months. That's approximately $6.3 million per month, every month, for the 6 months of the season this year and the 6 months of the season next year. So do the Angels go to Rendon? I just had a brain melt over his first name, which is Anthony. Thank you. Coke, I'm sorry. Will you try to not make me look like that person? Can we just, ready? 4869. The Angels clearly have to have a conversation about Anthony Rendon and the question of when to designate him. And for an owner to acknowledge that in the beginning of 76 million, he's probably not going to do it. However, Rendon is going to be designated, because at some point there will be a marriage of the views of the baseball side and the business side. And then they will go to the owner as a united front and say, it's time. And that's going to happen, because the Angels are trying to have a positive season. They're trying for the first time. I believe, Coca, they have the longest streak. I believe they're the Jets of Major League Baseball. Longest streak without a playoff appearance. Remember, this is a team that had Ohtani and Trout. Remember Mike Trout? Yeah, he's back playing, but he's never played more than 82 games, not once since 2020. Not once. Mike Trout is not one of the best players in baseball anymore, no matter what you think of his talent. He has been surpassed because being on the field and producing is way more valuable than saying, look at the back of my baseball card. Look at the MVP votes and look at the place I have been when I am playing full seasons. Great. I used to be an amazing intramural basketball player. You think if I went down to the Y and played right now with the youngins, how would I do? Forget the fact that I need oxygen and I need to go to the hospital for a torn hamstring. My impact would be far less. So what the Angels did is they went out and they got all of these players. They signed Kenley Jansen, bless his soul, 37, still making $10 million a year. They traded for Soler, tried to see if he can produce after he signed that ill-fated long-term deal. They brought in Travis d'Arnaud for the Braves, see if he, for $6 million, can help their catching and be a veteran and be someone who's won. They brought in Tim Anderson. Obviously, that is just a minor league player who is likely not to make the team, and if he does, not to be productive. They signed Kikuchi for $63 million to pitch. You remember him. He was traded from the Blue Jays to the Astros for the stretch run, and he pitched great for the Astros. So Artie Moreno, as we've told you, spends money. He's willing to have a high payroll, but his two players who he needs to play, Trout and Rendon, they have not played a full season since 2019. You're not going to win that way. So here's how it ends. Anthony Rendon will get DFA'd this season.